بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم اجعلنا من أهل القرآن الذين هم أهلك وخاصتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I wanted to go into a discussion as to why I personally prefer to teach using Quran Beheld versus other translations. Alhamdulillah, for almost 2 years now, we have had a consistent daily Fajr halaqa where we read a page of Quran a day and analyze Sheikh Nuh's translation. Of course, I will read through the books of tafsir and have that as we dive into it page by page. Alhamdulillah. So I've covered the translation of Sheikh Nuh extensively, so I have a grasp of how Sheikh Nuh deals with things. Um, and so today I wanted to do a case study of using a few ayat from Surat Nuh and compare the clear Quran with the Quran Beheld, and as to why I personally prefer for more advanced students and for students of knowledge to use Quran Beheld versus other translations. And again, I must preface this by saying that I have love and respect for all those that serve the Book of Allah Azza wa Jal. Sheikh Khattab and Sheikh Nuh ala ra'si wal ayn, people who have used their years of effort and hard work to serve the Book of Allah Azza wa Jal, they're the best of us. خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to benefit from their knowledge, Ya Rabbil Alameen. That وَمَنْهَجْ مَشَايِخِنَا أَن نَبْنِي وَلَا نَهْدِمْ. We build upon the works of others and we don't destroy what they have established. So without further ado, inshallah ta'ala, we'll go into a few examples of Surah Nuh. Bismillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first ayah, إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ أَنْ أَنذِرْ قَوْمَكَ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. The usage of min qabl versus qabl has a sense of mubadara and urgency that I believe is better captured in the translation of Quran Beheld. Warn your people in time before there comes them a painful chastisement, versus warn your people before a painful punishment comes to them. أدرك ابنك من قبل أن يسقط. There's a sense of urgency and mubadara that I believe is better captured in the translation of Quran Beheld. Or for example, قال يا قوم إني لكم نذير مبين, and تنكيل التعظيم and whatnot. And we find this throughout the translation of Sheikh Nuh where he brings that out. Again, people might say, why would someone add on adjectives that aren't really there in the ayah? Unmistakably clear warner that isn't really found in the ayah, quote unquote. But for the teacher who obviously knows this, when they're engaging with the translation and they have their students in front of them, that could be an access point to make the students engage deeper into the Arabic of the ayah. So again, there is no perfect translation of the Quran. Every translator has their own methodology, and with their clear Quran obviously aims to be accessible to the masses. I feel like Quran Beheld, again, as I say, it's what I recommend for students, for serious students, and for a deeper dive and study of the Quran. Personally, this is what I have found. So I wouldn't give Quran Beheld to a convert per se, but for circles of knowledge, I for sure would recommend Quran Beheld. قال رب إني دعوت قومي ليلا ونهارا. Dr. Khattab, he translates it as day and night. Of course, the ayah is laylan wa nahara, night and day. And we know in the science of balagha, the concept of taqdeem and ta'khir holds a lot of rhetorical value. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not place a word before another except it's done so for a reason and for a hikmah. كل ترتيب وجد في كتاب الله فهو لحكمة. This is found in all. You find this in really the tafsir tradition. You find this in the books of balagha, and so I understand his perspective. Day and night sounds better in English, but it really loses that rhetorical value when you put laylan wa nahara as Quran Beheld translates it. Laylan wa nahara, to show you the intensity of the da'wah of Nuh alayhi salam, that even at nighttime he's doing da'wah. When people are resting, sleeping, he's giving da'wah. Subhanallah. فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا فَعَّالًا. If you want to describe someone's occupation or صنعة, you would use the pattern of fa'al, like najjar or khabbaz. You wouldn't call someone a baker if they just bake bread once. But if this is their profession, this is their occupation, this is what they do on a day-to-day basis, you would say khabbas. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal is ghaffar, He is forgiving and forgiving and forgiving and forgiving. And so I feel like that's better reflected in the translation of Sheikh Nuh. Oft relenting, often, constantly, Azza wa Jal is forgiving. Dr. Khattab translates as most forgiving. I feel like oft relenting better captures Ghaffara. Wallahu a'lam. These are just my own personal preferences. And again, وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ. يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدَرَارًا. Dr. Khattab translates it as He will shower you with abundant rain. When you look at Quran Beheld, He says, and He will loose the sky on you, renewing its rain in goodly measure. And when you look at the root letters of midarara, it also ties back to how an animal gives its milk. It's not consistently, constantly giving milk. It gives milk, replenishes, eats, and then it gives milk. It gives milk. And then for a time, and then it gives milk. Nobody wants rain to be just constant, but the best type of rain is rain that comes and goes, and comes and goes. And that's better reflected in the translation of Sheikh Nuh, in goodly measure. Midrara. وَيُمْدِدْكُمْ بِأَمْوَالٍ وَبَنِينَ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ جَنَّاتٍ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ أَنْهَارًا. Dr. Khattab, he says, supply you, I like, and give you mighty support. Al-madad بِأَمْوَالٍ. Okay, look, anytime you find tankir in the translation of Sheikh Nuh, you'll find that they're always adjectives. People might like that, people might not like that. Again, for me, it invites discussion for Quran students. So I personally, I like it because I can point it out for Quran students. So it's a good teaching resource. وَيُمْدِدْكُمْ بِأَمْوَالٍ وَبَنِينَ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ جَنَّاتٍ. See, look, countless tankil, ta'lim, takfir, countless, lush, great, you see. Different adjectives. ما لكم, another ayah, ما لكم لا ترجون لله وقارا. I feel like Dr. Khattab didn't even translate the لا ترجون part. What is the matter with you? ما لكم لا ترجون, that you are not in awe. لا ترجون لله وقارا. I feel like it's entirely missed in the translation of Dr. Khattab, but when you look at Quran Beheld, and of course there's a lot of discussion as to what raja means in this ayah. A person may refer back to my tafsir durus on it. If you look at Quran Beheld, why is it you place not the slightest hope? That captures the meaning of raja, لا ترجون لله وقارا, versus Dr. Khattab, who I feel like even missed it. والله أنبتكم من الأرض نباتا. Allah alone caused you to grow from the earth like a plant. Just fine. The Quran Beheld translation is more poetic. So you see, and Allah has grown you out of the earth to full flower. And really, there are many times where, subhanAllah, you have to have an English dictionary when you're using the Quran Beheld translation, which some people might like, some people might not like. Again, it's all personal preference. Sheikh Nuh is very poetic. He reads a lot of poetry that's very clear from his translations. And also, as I said, he really captures the fine balagha points that I feel are missed in all translations. But he really brings it out, and that's what I really like. It's good for the student of knowledge. ثم يعيدكم فيها ويخرجكم إخراجا. أكده بالمصدر. When you look at Dr. Khattab, he says, and then simply bring you forth again. But when you look at Quran Beheld and you find the emphasis, and is certain to bring you forth from it once again. وَيُخْرِجُكُمْ إِخْرَاجًا. Or, for example, قَالَ نُوحُ رَبِّ إِنَّهُمْ عَصَوْنِي وَاتَّبَعُوا. And then he translates this as, and followed instead. Those elite until the end, and followed instead. وَاتَّبَعُوا. The wazn is ittaba'a. Tabi'a versus ittaba'a. Ittaba'a has more mubalagha and has shidda to it. So that's why Sheikh Nuh, you see he adds an adjective. He says, what? Slavishly followed. Again, when you read that translation, you wonder, why would he translate it like this? And then you go back, and then you find out the reason. There's always a reason. When you go back into the books of tafsir, I always found that when I read the translation of Sheikh Nuh, I wonder, why did he translate like this? And then I go back, and I reference Alusi and Ibn Ashur, and the lectures of Sheikh Ali Hani. I'm like, that makes sense. So again, it opens doors to deeper discussion for students of knowledge. And that's what I really, really appreciate. وقالوا لا تذرن آلهتكم ولا تذرن ودا ولا سواعا ولا يغوث ويعوق ونسرا. Okay. لا تذرن آلهتكم. And then repeat it again. ولا تذرن. But then look how Dr. Khattab translates it. Do not abandon your idols. Especially, he doesn't repeat the translation of ولا تذرن. Sheikh Noor says by no means. And then again, by no means. Which is a more accurate translation. And then look how Quran Beheld is so. I love it so much because he has every line intended and stopped for a reason. And so when you look, by no means leave wad or suwa or yaghuth. Why? Because each one is has a la after before it. ولا تذرن ود ولا سواع ولا يغوث ويعوق ونسرا. ويعوق ونسرا. It's as though they're not as important. So he said, or even يعوق النسر. You see the lam is not repeated there. You see? And so it's reflected in the translation and it's not shown at all in the translation of Dr. Mustafa Khattab. And again, we're just using Surah Nuh as a case study, a few ayat, but I promise you, as I've engaged, alhamdulillah, with the entire Quran, you see this all over. You see this all over. For example, وَقَالَ نُوحُ رَبِّ لَا تَذَرَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ دَيَّارًا مِنَ الدَّوَرَانِ. Okay, so you see a single soul moving around. My Lord, leave not on the earth of disbelievers a single soul moving around, which captures the essence and the root of that word. Dr. Khattab, yes, he shows the meaning of it, but the yara is not even shown. Do not leave a single disbeliever on earth. Okay, but the yara, it's not really being translated here in the translation of Dr. Khattab. Quran Beheld shows it, of disbelievers, a single soul moving around. Or for example, رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيَّ وَلِمَنْ دَخَلَ بَيْتِيَ مُؤْمِنًا وَالْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَلَا تَزِيدَ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا تَبَارًا. Increase the wrongers only in destruction. Okay, but every word placed in the Quran is done so for a reason. One word versus the other, there must be a reason there. And so tabara min at-tibr, it gives the meaning of not just destruction, but of something that is shattered into pieces. And that isn't shown at all in the translation of Dr. Khattab. But when you look at Quran Beheld, but in shattered destruction. Again, وَفِي كُلٍّ خَيْرٍ. Both translations are great. Anyone who serves the Book of Allah Azza wa Jal is someone that I have much love and respect for tremendously. But at the same time, for a deeper dive into the study of the Quran and into the field of tafsir, I personally have seen time and time again why Quran Beheld is really by far the best translation of the Quran. And this is why I personally teach it and I recommend it for everyone. And this is why even the khatma of the Quran that I'm recording, I'm doing it with the translation of Sheikh Nuh. So I encourage you all to listen, tune in, and you're able to follow along with the translation as well. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.